Most dry pasta you eat probably was not rolled out, rather it was extruded, meaning they pushed the dough through tiny little holes. This is a process pioneered on an industrial scale in Naples in the 17th century. That original dried extruded pasta probably looked something like this, with a rough surface on it. Look under the microscope and you can really see it. The original extruded pasta was rough. Then, in the mid-20th century, pasta factories started squirting out spaghetti that looked like this, glassy smooth on the surface, and this is what most pasta on the market looks like today. But lately, people have been getting into the rough stuff again. They say that it holds sauce better. That's a claim we're going to test later. If you want to test it yourself, you just look for packages that say something like bronze cut or bronze die, something like that. It's usually a little more expensive. The die they're talking about is the piece of metal through which you squeeze the dough, thereby forming the shape. And traditionally, that metal was bronze. Good old bronze, humanity's first real metal. And yeah, we had copper before that, but copper is super soft, so you can't do very much with it. Melt it down and mix it with some tin or some arsenic, and you get a metal that is much harder, and that is bronze. Better to go with tin, probably, rather than arsenic for food preparation purposes. Of course, extruded pasta was not invented until the early modern period, at which point they had iron and steel, which are even harder than bronze, but iron is rougher and more prone to corrosion. Steel, too, because stainless had yet to be invented. Dye oxidation or corrosion is a big problem in pasta manufacturing because, of course, the dough is wet. Also, it might be slightly acidic because the dough can ferment a little before you actually squeeze it out. And modern science shows us that bronze dyes don't get quite as hot as other metals when they're used for pasta making.
I don't know if people worry about it, but whenever you have friction, you're going to have heat.
Dr. Frank Manthey is a legit pasta scientist at North Dakota State University. I just showed you a chapter from a book that he co-wrote.
And at this point, you really don't want heat, during the extrusion process.
The friction of the dough going through the die transforms into heat, and if too much heat builds up in the metal, it could cook the surface of the pasta as it passes through. This would result in starch or protein damage, weak spots that could look ugly and cook up all gummy or break, also nutrient loss. Bronze disperses that heat out into its environment a little bit better than other comparable metals. So maybe that's another reason why bronze is king in pasta making. Or it was until after 1938. That's the year when American chemist Roy Plunkett was researching refrigerants at DuPont when he accidentally invented polytetrafluoroethylene, known by the brand name Teflon. Pasta manufacturers started coating their metal dies, bronze or otherwise, in Teflon, and then whoosh!
The extrusion rate is faster if you have the Teflon die. So, because it's smooth. Without the Teflon coating, there is more friction.
But with Teflon, you can press the pasta through faster, and time is money in manufacturing. Plus, it gets you a shiny, smooth product. Consumers like shiny. And Teflon dye pasta is more resistant to spoilage. In 2007, these scientists in Milan deliberately contaminated different pasta samples with rice weevils, and they let them grow in there for a while. The little bugs seemed to have an easier time penetrating the flaky surface of the bronze dye pasta, and they bored their little holes in there and they laid their little eggs. This is the weevil population in the Teflon dye pasta, and this is the population in the bronze dye pasta. Yikes! Now mind you, that does not mean that all bronze dye pasta has weevils in it. It just means that if it does have weevils, it probably has more of them. Why is this stuff hip again? Well, the authors of this Milanese paper note, the rough surface holds more sauce, and they've got a citation to prove it. Let's see. Did Pagani et al. Do an experiment to prove this? Quote, if a bronze die is used, this gives a rough surface which, according to some consumers, is preferable as it enables the pasta to hold the sauce better. They attribute this claim to folk wisdom, not to science. And that's why you always check the primary sources, even when you're watching my videos. I make mistakes all the time, and usually the top commenters in the video have caught them because they went back and they checked the primary sources, and that's good. But hey, let's be a primary source and do our own experiment to test this sauce absorption claim. I've got 100 grams of tomato sauce and 50 grams of dry Teflon dye spaghetti. It goes into a liter of boiling water with a pinch of salt, and heat under the sauce goes on low. While we wait for 10 minutes, I can scan my grocery receipt with the sponsor of this video, Fetch Rewards, and earn some reward points. This works with literally any retail receipt up to 2 weeks old, not just food receipts. You download the free Fetch app, you use it to take a picture of the receipt, hit submit, and immediately you've got reward points back. If you shop online and therefore don't have paper receipts, you just hit the little e-receipt button. My God, it's full of stars. Anyway, you give the app permission to scan your email inbox for any eligible receipts, and bang, bunch of points come back because I order way too much delivery online. Those 2 scans alone give me enough points to redeem for rewards, which are basically gift cards you can spend at Amazon and a million other stores, like restaurants or the movies, GameStop, whatever. You can even get cash cards or donate the points to charity. Download Fetch with my link in the description, use my code RAGUSIA, and you'll get 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. Limited time offer. Download the app now and use the code RAGUSIA to get 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. Thank you, Fetch Rewards. Anyway, I'll drain the Teflon dye spaghetti after 10 minutes, weigh it. Boiled weight is 117 grams. That's a 134% increase from the dry weight. Now I'm going to stir it in the hot sauce for 2 minutes. This is the traditional Italian pasta cooking step, often forgotten by us Americans. Let the pasta finish cooking in the sauce so that it can absorb some flavor. After 2 minutes, I will curl up the pasta with a fork and lift it over to a plate on my scale. The plate is a stand-in for my mouth. I want to measure how much sauce is going to make it to its ultimate destination, which is, of course, my food hole. We get 151 grams of sauced weight. That's a 30% increase from the boiled weight. Now we'll repeat the experiment with bronze dye spaghetti. I even cooled down my pans, so I'm starting from 0 again. One thing I notice is the boil water is cloudier with the bronze dye spaghetti. This is not surprising. Scientists have absolutely shown that flaky, rough surface dissolves a little more into the water. You get some modest cooking loss, which you could recover if you use the water in the sauce, but I'm trying to keep my experiment standard today, so thoroughly drain. Drained weight is 111 grams as opposed to 117 from before, because cooking loss, probably. Toss in the hot sauce for 2 minutes as before. It occurs to me that if you use some of the cooking water in your sauce, the water from the bronze dye pasta might be slightly more gelatinous due to the dissolved starch, and that might result in a slightly thicker sauce that would cling slightly better to the pasta. But that's not what we're testing today. We're just testing how the pasta itself holds onto sauce, and my sauced weight is 148 grams. That's a 33% increase from the boiled weight. We've got a 30% increase with the Teflon pasta and a 33% increase with the bronze dye pasta. That's a very, very small difference and could easily be attributable to just random variation. So let's repeat the experiment, except this time I'm going to start with the same number of strands of pasta, 40 strands. The Teflon spaghetti is slightly narrower, so the weight will be different, but the surface area will be a little closer, and I get the same basic results. The increase in weight from the boiled pasta to the sauced pasta is in the low 30%, no matter which spaghetti I use. Bronze dye pasta does not appear to retain more sauce, contrary to popular belief. And it's not just me. Dr. Manthi and colleagues have done similar experiments.
It's not as big as we would have thought. I think it tends towards the rougher the surface a little more. But I think the bigger issue is that the liquid of that sauce is absorbed into that spaghetti. And so then, again, we come back to the organoleptic experience, which ultimately is what it's all about.
That's going to be our next channel t-shirt, by the way. Organoleptic experience, what it's all about. He's just talking about how the spaghetti tastes and feels in your mouth. People absolutely can feel the difference in surface texture of bronze dye pasta. Lauren prefers that texture, and so do I. That's reason enough to choose it over Teflon pasta, but Dr. Manthi thinks the rougher surface might also absorb more flavor, and that's a distinct property from retaining sauce on the surface. We can sort of test this with food coloring. The longer strand is the bronze dye pasta, different lengths so I can tell them apart. The bronze dye strand on the left is a little darker in color. That could be due to greater absorption, but could also just be the rough surface diffusing light. Let's cut a cross section and look inside. Maybe we see slightly deeper color penetration in the bronze dye pasta on the left. I don't know. And color is not a perfect proxy for flavor because different molecules are able to penetrate food structures differently. Some molecules are small enough to pass through cell membranes and some are too big, that kind of thing. But assuming more flavor penetrated the noodle, you might taste the difference as you bite through it. Lately, when I've been making baked pasta dishes, I have been not boiling the pasta first. I just throw it in dry with the sauce and then throw it in the oven. And when you do that, the noodles actually come out tasting different. You can taste the flavor of the sauce running through the whole noodle. That's perceivable. So, if with bronze die pasta you get a little more flavor absorption into the sort of surface layers of the pasta itself, maybe that would be perceivable as you bite through it. I don't know. Or maybe you would just notice that kind of fuzzy surface texture on your tongue. And if you like that, well, that's reason enough to pay a little extra for the bronze die pasta. Just don't tell anyone that it carries more sauce, pending further direct scientific investigation of that claim.